You're not broken, just your pattern maybe. And that we can change. It's not even broken. It's just working in the way we've taught it to work, in the way we've rewarded ourselves with the feeling of wanting relief and then getting instantaneous relief. Hey, listen, it works. I'm not ever going to deny that having a drink works in the short term if you're looking to numb out, anesthetize, turn down, quote, the noise in your head. We've discussed this many times here in Sober Sis. The only problem is you can't selectively turn the knob. It turns everything down, including your decision brain, your resilience, your ability to feel joy if you're trying to turn down sadness or anger or loneliness. It turns down your sense of belonging and well-being as well. Turns it all down. And so let's talk about this. You're not broken. You're just patterned. This is how I would best describe the detox to retox loop. Okay. I don't even need to look at my notes because I lived it for so long, but I want you to hear the loop and then know that restriction without rewiring creates that deprivation mindset and actually causes the loop to repeat. So it starts like this. We wake up. We have good intentions. How many of you woke up with good intentions today? Put a comment below this video. Let me know if you woke up today with good intentions, like, I'm not going to drink tonight. You may have had other goals for your health and wellness as well. So you decide, I'm going to cut back, or I'm not going to drink tonight. And then you feel good. That's right. You feel good the next day. You really feel better throughout the night when you're not waking up at 3 a.m. with the 3 a.m. wake-up call, the one that wakes you up and says, you did it again. So you feel good. You lower your guard because you're like, oh, I feel better. And then once we lower our guard, it seems like that's when the stress hits or the trigger. Could even be something celebratory. You know, for me, I didn't always have a drink or want alcohol when things were bad or sad or hard. Sometimes I wanted to drink when things were really good, or the sun was shining, or the patio was calling my name. And so the stress hits or the trigger, and then we drink, and then we regret, and then we restart. For me, it was the detox retox loop. By day, I was super healthy, mindful. I was using my decision brain pretty much all day. So then what happened was decision fatigue set in. Just heard on a podcast this morning that we make about 35,000 decisions every day. That is staggering. That is shocking. 35,000. And we're not going to get them all right. Some of them are as simple as, which reader am I going to read with today? Because I have a lot of readers. It could be big decisions that are life-altering. Probably you have about 10 important decisions to make per day, and the other 34,990 don't really matter, but still, that's a lot of decision making. And so what happens in the loop is we make decisions all day with our decision brain, and then 5 o'clock, wine o'clock rolls around and we flip on our desire brain. And that's when we're like, you know what? I'm tired of making decisions. And that's why I go back to pre-deciding is so important. Pre-deciding, pre-planning, and the third P, playing the movie forward, is so critical because that desire brain is so strong. That's those cravings. And so the goal is not to resist them. One of the tools we talk about in Sober Sis that I have in my free guide, and we talk about in the 21-day reset challenge, is surfing the urge. So it's not about resisting the craving. It's about recognizing it and getting off of autopilot and actually looking at the craving with awareness, which brings your decision brain back online. When we're living on autopilot, we're living in desire brain, whatever feels good, whatever's quick, whatever's easy. But when we're living in decision brain, we're pausing, we're stopping, we're thinking, we're applying down the road thinking. How do we want to feel later? That's playing the movie forward. It's a game changer, total game changer. This is important to know. The brain remembers relief more than regret. Let me say that again. The brain remembers relief. Remember, what fires together, wires together. That's just like a neuroscience mantra. And so when you get that strong sense of relief, like, oh, There's the drink. There it is. Did you know you get a dopamine hit even when you pull the glass down from the cabinet? Before you've even put the Pinot Grigio or the cold beer or whatever your drink of choice is, did you know before you even put the drink in your body, you're already getting a dopamine hit? That is how powerful our brain is in remembering the relief. The regret, that doesn't really come online when the desire brain is in charge. So what we want to do is keep your decision brain online, in control, but not constantly deciding, but yet pre-deciding when your tank is full. And then we're going to talk about how you can follow through with that. So we don't typically correlate the regret, the hangover, the next day, heightened anxiety, the increased cortisol. Did y'all know, a little side note, a little bit more science here for you. Did you know that your cortisol rises for days after drinking? Even if you have one or two drinks, I'm not talking about going crazy drinking. I'm just talking about repetitive drinking. I'm talking about just alcohol in your system. It actually increases your cortisol for up to 3 or 4 days. And it takes about 7 to 10 days to get alcohol and its physiological effects out of your body. So that means, in that moment, which is, again, strong, especially if you're living on autopilot or unaware of it, it just feels natural. And that's what we're wanting to do, is disrupt the autopilot and start to correlate the decision brain with, okay, if I do drink, let me play the movie forward. How do I want to feel? I plan my Friday nights based on a Saturday morning. Now with the science I've learned, I base my Friday night decisions based on how I want to feel on a Monday morning. That's all right, sisters. We really have to think about this, because, boy, that short-term relief, again, that's a strong memory and that's a strong reward. So we have to start recognizing that actually that reward is very short-lived, but the payment for that reward is days in the making. And we still want a reward. There's nothing wrong with having that reward. I'm going to talk about that next. Here's my example. It is like driving on a paved highway and then going off-road. I talk about that all the time. We talked about it on our most recent 21-day reset call, about the first 7 to 10 days are so uncomfortable because you're going off the beaten trail, the smooth highway of autopilot, and you're going off-road. Now you're going into a field. You're going into places that don't have rutted in paths. But the good news is you're creating them with repetition every time you rewire and retrain your brain with the decision brain, not just the desire brain. Again, there's nothing wrong with desire, especially if your desires are in line with your decisions. And that was the gap I had. That was the gap I had in the detox to retox loop, was my desires were contrary to the decisions that I had made that morning and that I really deep down wanted to make for my health and wellness and spiritual connection with the Lord and just my own wholeheartedness. I was living so divided. And it's because I had two different brains. I really did have two different things going. And I've heard this before many times. Try to chase two rabbits and you won't catch either one. The Bible says, try to serve two masters. You can't really serve either one well. You're going to be constantly going and vacillating back and forth. So next point I wanted to make is we want to retrain desire, not fight it. Again, we don't want to resist desire. Desire is good. Desire in the hands of a decision-making brain is a good thing. Desire fades through repetition and reinforcement. So the desire for alcohol, that is, literally fades. It fades away. This is good news for somebody who needs to hear this today. My desire for alcohol finally, through repetition and practice, which took weeks, if not really months, if not really into my first year, to really turn down the dial of daily desire of thinking about a drink. Even if it was just a happy hour get together, have a drink or drink alone in my kitchen while I was cooking, whatever. It took time, but guess what? That desire goes down as you change the reward system and what you're doing. So there's two shifts that have to happen here. The first shift is awareness before autopilot. That's what we're doing when we start the 21-day reset challenge. 21 days is not enough time to totally rewire your brain. That's why I do a lot of my coaching on the 2190 rule. Not about rules, but this one actually makes sense. So it takes about 21 days to break or change a habit. What that means is it takes about 21 days to get off of autopilot, because that's exactly what it is. It's a default. It's a familiar, and your brain wants to pull you there. It wants you to go there. And it takes about 21 days to even recognize, oh, I'm reaching for the God. What am I doing? Or you walk into a happy hour or a date night, or you're sitting at the restaurant and you're looking at the menu and the waiter says, can I get you a drink? And you consciously stop and think, yes, you can get me a drink. And then you tell them what you're drinking and it's not alcohol. That's a big deal. It's a real big deal. So the first step in all of this, and what we're doing, the first step of Sober Sis, is the 21 days, because that's enough time to get you off of autopilot. And we're just trying to bring awareness into the situation. Get off of just that desire brain and living on autopilot, and just start to bring in that decision brain. But we're retraining, we're rewiring, and it is uncomfortable. And that's why I want to go to shift number 2. And that is the importance of connection and having a strong community. If you haven't joined us yet, come on in. Because that's what we're really working on. It's creating, I've heard it said that connection is the antidote to addiction. And I know addiction is a strong, scary word. Really, what I mean by addiction, he says, addictive behavior is actually doing the same thing over and over again, even after experiencing negative consequences from doing it the time before. That's why so many of us have had a gnarly hangover. You know, those where you're like, I'm never drinking again. How many of you have woke up and thought, whoa, that was a doozy, or I really tied one on, or whoa, that just hit me wrong, or I just kept going. I had no stop button. I had no off switch. And you wake up and you're like, I am never drinking again. Hey, nobody got time for that. And then 2 days later, or the next weekend, you're back at it. And you're like, what is that? That is insanity. Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. But it's not because you're insane. It's not because you're crazy. It's because your desire brain is wired for doing it. Your desire brain, that short-lived temporary relief loop, which gets rewarded with drinking because it works in the short term, we're just not tying it to the long term, is online. It's active. And that's what we want to do, is bring in awareness and then utilize connection and community, because oftentimes we're drinking to fill a void, to feel like we've got kind of I'm going to say it, a companion in drinking. How many of you have ever looked at your relationship with alcohol as that, a relationship? I did. I didn't know it at the time. I wouldn't have said, oh yeah, alcohol's kind of my BFF. But I kind of felt that way, because I was like, whoa, when things are hitting the fan, or there's a lot of conflict in my house, or I'm just bored or lonely, alcohol is always there for me. But it wasn't there for me. It was there for my desire brain. It was a quick fix. It was a quick alteration to my brain. It altered me. It altered my state of being to something that was just kind of easier and more familiar in the moment. But it was short-lived. It was about 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Then that starts to wear off. And then you're at another point where you're like, do I have another one? Well, at that point, your desire brain is in charge, not your decision brain, because the drink itself causes a thirst for itself. Crazy, isn't it? That drink wants you to drink more. It's kind of like, you know, you've heard that saying, you order the first drink and then the drink orders the next one. We lose our ability, because of the substance of alcohol knocks our decision making a little bit offline. So there's that. I think what I would leave y'all with here, this whole journey is not about trying harder and more willpower. You can't be in the situation and hope for the decision brain just to come online. You have to practice living more with that decision brain. And earlier I talked about decision fatigue and how important it is to set yourself up for success. So if it's 5 o'clock, 1 o'clock, or that's you have a usual time that you start kind of gravitating towards the idea of drinking, and you start negotiating with yourself, those are your two brains, the two sides of you. And that's the mental tug of war. That's the most exhausting part. In fact, I say in my book, Look Alive Sis, which if you don't have a copy, I'd love to send you one. I say in my book, Look Alive Sis, I had more of a thinking problem than I did a drinking problem. And it's absolutely true. Now that I've been able to kind of reverse engineer, that means pull it backwards, my drinking habit, my drinking ritual routine. If I look back at it, it had a lot to do with my thinking and the value I actually assigned to alcohol. It was high value. So it gave me high reward, high relief in the temporary. But to keep up with that level of reward and relief, I had to drink more. That's the nature of the substance. You build tolerance with something like alcohol. It's all about wanting you to build tolerance, so you have to have more of it, and that creates dependence. High tolerance, high dependence. I used to think it was a badge of honor. Like, wow, I can really hold my own. Look how much I can drink and still be high functioning. Well, yeah, that just means I'm really dependent and I have to have more to feel more, or in my case, not feel. And so what is that? That's what you want to bring your decision brain into, being able to look at more clearly. Listen, God gave us a brain and he also gave us a mind. The brain is the hardware. It can be retrained. It can be rewired. And our minds, that's what we want to renew every single day through repetition. And you can watch your desires change, y'all. You can literally watch your desires change. So if this sounds like something you're interested in and want to do, I absolutely invite you to join us for the next 21-day reset challenge. After that, I invite you to go on and give yourself time in the alcohol-free lifestyle course, which will give you that 90 days, because it's about 21 days to break or change a habit and get off of autopilot, and then more like 90 days to replace that neuro pathway, rewire your brain, and then before you know it, you really have created a new lifestyle where your decision brain and your desire brain are actually aligned and in sync with each other, and you're no longer competing with opposing desires. Your desire aligns with your decisions that are best for you, and that, my friends, is freedom. And that's what I'm inviting you to. So check it out. Y'all have a great day. Thanks again for being here. Bye, y'all.